Hey guys, hello and welcome. So, quick update before we start this video. Dr. Ron Paul reveals number one step to prepare for America's next big crisis. Well, we know the crisis is here already, so I don't think it's their next big one. It's this one that just seems to be carrying on. So, here's an update for all of you that want to post stupid comments and be abusive and complain about my commentary during the video. Just don't post. Just go somewhere else. It doesn't matter. You know, you can see there's 1,500, 2,000, whatever people who have subscribed to my videos. End result is they like the ideas I share. They like what I do. If you don't like it, it's okay. Move on. We don't care. We don't mind. Go and, in fact, better still, bring out your own channel and your own videos. And then you can tell everyone how great you are and how perfect you are. You know what I mean? Okay, you get the idea. You leave any bullshit on the channel, we'll simply delete you. Why? Because we're not interested in your negative, complaining, bitching crap. Alright? Just STH, which is a polite way of saying shut that up and move on, because we don't care. Alright, everybody else who's interested, let's get into it. It's a little bit noisy today. I've got the door open so we can get some decent light. So let's go.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Jared Kelly, here with 12-term Congressman, 3-time presidential candidate Ron Paul, with an urgent warning he's sharing exclusively right here for all Americans who are watching this, regardless of political
Not
party.
just Americans.
Dr. Paul, it's an honor to have you with us.
Think
sir.
about this for your own country.
Well, let's get right to it. You believe our country is on the cusp of a massive financial crisis. Just how bad are you predicting the crisis will be?
I think it's going to be very bad. I think it'll probably be worse than our Great Depression. I think it's going to be worse than the crisis that we had in 2008 and 2009. And I'm going to talk very specifically about the steps you should take to protect yourself.
Nice.
In short, I believe we as a nation are on the brink of a massive financial crisis, infinitely worse than the crisis of 2008. And that's because it won't be a banking and mortgage problem, but a full-blown currency crisis, the likes of which we've never experienced in this country. The savings of millions of people could be wiped out overnight. The stock market could crash by 50% or more. The way of life we've enjoyed as Americans for 50 years could come to an end. It's not a question of if this will happen, but when.
So why now? Why are you speaking out about this prediction today?
I'll tell you why, because most Americans don't have a clue about what's going on.
Because they're too busy watching Netflix.
That in the past 6 years, we've created
genius has limitations.
New money
Your
out of thin air.
stupidity has none.
At the same
It's
time,
not just
since
Americans.
2006, we've
Australia,
doubled our
New Zealand,
national
all
debt.
over the world.
I've said hundreds of times throughout my career in the House, prosperity cannot be created out of thin air by a central bank. The people running our country today are living in a fantasy world. And if you're not careful, you and millions of other everyday Americans will pay the price.
So, Dr. Paul, what do you think will be the biggest impact of this crisis?
Well, sooner than most people think, I predict we'll see people losing confidence in the U.S. dollar as a simple result of investors around the world realizing our currency is no longer the safe haven it once was. And you cannot restore confidence with more paper money. And when the currency collapses, nearly everything else goes with it.
Has to.
Stocks, bonds, commodities, you name it. When you destroy a currency, you can destroy the entire economy. You can destroy the whole nation. The middle class gets wiped out. The way you live, work, travel, and retire, and invest in America, everything is going to change. Some of it in ways most people can't even imagine.
So, essentially, you're predicting the entire U.S. financial system will collapse.
Correct.
As someone who spent 22 years in Congress, what do you think will be the immediate impact on the federal government?
Well, I'm fearful of a collapse, Jared. For one thing, it makes it a lot harder for our government to borrow money and pay interest on all the debt we've racked up.
I don't understand
to
this
expand the
comment.
welfare state, or to stay...
Because as we know, there's no debt. The debt is fictitious. It's quasi. The debt is FRNs, which is simply promissory notes. So why are we paying interest on a quasi-debt, on a debt that doesn't exist?
The U.S. military in 140 countries. But forget the government. The real concern is what happens to everyday Americans, especially the middle class.
How so?
Well, for the everyday American, if the government's broke, all your wealth, all your savings will be put in jeopardy. We'll see massive changes in our retirement system and Social Security. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the government take over people's 401ks and IRAs.
Why is that?
401ks are worthless
Because
now
doing that
anyway.
would essentially
401s,
force
as we
people
know.
to buy
So
worthless government bonds,
government's been
whereas
stealing
investors
them for
in the free
years.
market wouldn't touch them. In fact, I think we're likely to see huge tax increases and even a wealth tax, a fee on all your savings and valuable assets.
Can you explain?
Jeez, we're getting a good run on bloody trains today. Shit. Okay, so look, let's just jump forward a little bit. So if we jump down to, let's have a listen to this little bit for a sec.
Learn as many people as possible. The simple fact is, the more people who prepare themselves, the better off we're all going to be.
That's right.
The fewer people relying on the government to fix this problem, the stronger our country will turn out in the long run. Because believe me, the government won't be able to do a single thing about this crisis.
Why?
Remember, they're
the ones who created it,
and remember this too, by the time we see a full-blown currency crisis,
too late.
it'll be too late for you to protect yourself. The government won't warn you or save you. And I say that as someone who's met with every U.S. president for the past 40 years and every Fed chairman. I remember I once rode alongside President Reagan on his helicopter Marine One. And the subject of what's happening to our money came up. And he told me, he said, Ron, no great nation that abandoned the gold standard has ever remained.
Now, they abandoned their gold standard, as most countries in the world have.
I also confronted Alan Greenspan about this, and he told me he still stands by his original thesis, which was published decades ago. He wrote, in the absence of the gold standard, there is no way to protect savings from confiscation through inflation. There is no safe store of value.
But you're through with Washington now.
Yes, my years of
Crazy,
fighting in
isn't it?
Washington are over. I don't work in Congress anymore.
Crazy. There's no safe place.
And I'm not making any more runs for the presidency. And that's why today, all I can do is spread this public message right here, right now, for anyone who's watching,
So let's just
and explain
jump up
exactly how I believe you should protect yourself and get prepared.
In fact, you're recommending an entire blueprint of steps to get ready, correct?
That's right. I think it's remarkably simple for most everyday Americans to prepare. Now, keep in mind, I don't think you need to open foreign bank accounts, and I don't think you need to flee the country. The fact is, there's still nowhere else on earth I'd rather live than right here. But the important thing to realize is that you have to take action now. You have to realize that your financial safety is in your own
hands.
You can't wait for Washington to fix these problems. Real monetary reform will only come after a major currency crisis hits. And for most Americans, that will...
Let's just jump up here for a second, up to 1810. So let's just jump up here to 18 and listen to this section.
$1 trillion just to simply repay what we owe right now.
Incredible.
If the rate ends up at 6%, we'd spend $102 trillion. How do we pull that off?
Well, a lot of this stuff is just mismanagement by politicians, right? Isn't there a chance the rest of the world might, I don't know, cut Americans some slack and wait around for a policy change?
We'd rather cut your throats.
That's not how international credit works. 10 different countries have already signed deals.
Listen to the list, phasing out the US dollar as the basis of trade.
And you definitely can't wait for politicians to solve the problem. Our net public debt has more than doubled since 2006. This is years and years in the making. The politicians can't solve this problem. There's no chance they'll work this out. It's too late. As far as the world cutting America slack, you have to remember that the entire concept of money is based upon soundness, the promise of value. That's what money is all about. You've heard the expression good faith.
No, that's what FRNs are all about, not money.
We don't make a good faith attempt to pay back our debt. Nobody will loan us any more money.
There's no debt.
And printing even more money makes
no debt,
the problem
Ron Paul.
worse.
It's fictitious.
And that's because the entire idea of honest money developed naturally to replace bartering, so that farmers didn't have to walk around with a bag of potatoes
in those days it was backed by gold.
Right? Paper money is a promise that something of value is tied to it, like gold. We left the gold standard decades ago. So
did you hear him? Paper money is a promise. And he's dead right. Excuse me. The reason it's a promise is because FRNs, Federal Reserve Notes, are not real money. They're a promissory note. And a promissory note is an instrument that's used in the transaction of business, it's a promise to pay at some future date yet to be determined. So it's worth nothing. It's a promissory note.
The US dollar is only as good as the faith people have in it.
And that confidence is already starting to crumble.
Exactly. And when money can't be trusted, the price signals in the market all around the world can't be relied on anymore, which makes it harder and harder for people to exchange labor and capital internationally. The entire system breaks down as a result of the inevitable mistakes people make investing and saving their money. The scary thing is that many people in America, including many politicians in Washington, don't understand this because the US dollar has dominated the financial world for more than 50 years.
Okay, so to summarize, you believe all the trillions of dollars of new money being printed by the government will cause a massive devaluation of the dollar
it already
on a scale
is.
that we've never seen before. People could lose a bulk of their savings in a matter of hours, and most people will be completely surprised.
For some people, the only warning you're going to get is me sitting here right now and talking to you. You won't hear about this on the news until it's already happened.
Yeah.
And the government won't say a word. It would cause a panic. And yes, the crisis could arrive literally overnight, as it did in Great Britain in the 1970s. We're already seeing the warning signs. The Fed itself has announced that since 2003, the exchange value of the US dollar has plummeted by as much as 20%.
Crazy.
The IMF has proposed an entirely new world reserve currency system. Even Warren Buffett, a man who built his fortune on the strength of America, has moved something like 70% of his remaining government fixed income investments into foreign currencies.
What does that tell you about the American
dollar? You have
dollar?
a unique record in Congress. So you never voted for more debt. You tried to audit and even abolish the Federal Reserve. And you refused to vote for anything that didn't strictly adhere to the Constitution. Isn't there anything that monetary experts or fiscally minded politicians can do to stop this crisis from happening and prevent this tragedy before it's too late?
Theoretically, maybe. But they won't do it for political reasons. No way. The actions of the Fed and the last two White House administrations have gone beyond anything I could have ever imagined or thought in Congress. It's too late. I fear there could be civil unrest, massive unemployment, a huge drop in stock prices, great destruction of wealth.
Did you hear that? Civil unrest, which means they're going to be putting the armed forces on the streets of America. Now, they're already in the process of doing that in Australia. If you follow anything in Australia or you actually live in the country, you'll see that the government, I think it's the Andrews government in Victoria, is advertising for 3,000 more police. It's not like the population of the state has suddenly increased massively. They're simply advertising to get 3,000 more cops, and they're not police anyway. In any way, shape or form. They're not true police. They're simply armed security guards of a private corporation called the Commonwealth of Australia. Just like the ATO, Australian Taxation Office, is a fictitious entity. It's not real. So they've been collecting tax in this country fraudulently in the aspect that they shouldn't be doing it, but of course people are either asleep or just don't know. They're told to pay their tax, they pay their tax. But, what's that? Sounds like a sheep. No, it's a merino. All right, you get the joke. Let's move on.
The erosion of personal liberties, vicious capital controls, the suppression of privacy, authoritarian clampdowns, bank and brokerage closings on a map.
There are going to be massive riots in this country soon. And I believe there's going to be a coup either against the American governments or in some of these countries. People have just about had enough.
Scale, and ultimately a major crisis as the US dollar is rejected for almost any non-paper alternative. And believe me, I'm not trying to scare you. At this point in my life, all I want is for Americans to wake up, pay attention, and realize the logical conclusion of what our government is doing today. The only question is, will you take the steps necessary to...
Now, you keep looking at this, people are watching this thinking, yeah, but that's America. That's the world, you dummies. That's going on in your country right now. For those of you that are dummies. For the rest of you that aren't, you know this already.
Ready. I sure hope so. One thing you can definitely do is protect your wealth.
And what steps are you recommending personally? you're presenting a step-by-step blueprint for everyday Americans to prepare, correct?
Yes, but the blueprint isn't something I created myself. I've studied economics for more than 50 years, and I've done well in my lifetime owning hard assets like gold and silver and real estate. But I'm not an investment expert. So I've been looking around for someone I could feel comfortable recommending, and I found just that person.
Porter Stansberry.
Right. Porter Stansberry is one of the few people in America who's been as outspoken as me in recent years, explaining how our government is creating a currency crisis of epic proportion.
Incredible,
In
isn't it?
fact, he spent millions of dollars warning anyone who would listen to it. And what I like in particular about Porter is that he explains not only what's going to happen, but just as important, what you can do about it. It's not all doom and gloom.
So this is where the
If you know
spiel
what
comes.
to do, there's a chance to profit.
So you can see the
And
name
what
of
could
this
turn out
video.
to be
Go
the
and watch
biggest
the rest
redistribution of
after.
wealth in American history.
Many people believe that Porter Stansberry's blueprint is one of the most enlightening documents.
Go and watch the rest of this video. We're not going to go through all this now. It's a promotion for Stansbury. But look, you get the idea, obviously. You can see what's going on and how they've destroyed the world or destroyed the economies. So, just to reconfirm, go and start buying gold or silver. Obviously less than $10,000 lots when you go to the mint or whatever. Why? Because 10,000 or over, you have to report it, or at least they have to report it. You have to, provide ID to buy it. So if you buy less than 10,000, when the dirty, filthy, corrupt government brings out the law back in, like they did back in, I can't remember the exact year in America, where ownership with gold was illegal and they went around and confiscated everybody's gold. If you bought yours under 10 grand, no one knows you've got it. You understand what I'm saying? Try and think about what you're doing. Use some brains. Alrighty, look forward to you in the next video. Leave your comments down below with your questions, whatever. And have a great, Friday in America, Saturday in Australia, New Zealand. I don't know what it is in England now. I think it's, I'm not sure. Philippines, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, wherever you are, have a great Friday or Saturday, depending which cycle of the clock you're on. Okay, talk to you soon. Take care. Bye for now.